Hi, and welcome to another great episode of GFC TV, Gluten-Free Cooking Television. I'm your host, Beth McLean, and today we have a delicious assortment of baked goods that we're going to make. We're going to make some fabulous brownies, some amazing chocolate chip cookies, and then we're going to make some gluten-free coffee cake muffins. Stay tuned. We're going to make some delicious gluten-free brownies now. So we're going to start with our almond flour. Again, lots of super great nutrients there. We're going to add some turbinado sugar. And I'm actually going to process this right now to get a little bit of the graininess of the turbinado sugar out. There we go. We're going to add some cocoa powder, coconut flour. Again, such a silky texture. It smells so good. We've got some quinoa flour. We have some baking soda and our fantastic sea salt. Again, this is this Italian Mount Cecilia salt. Makes such a difference. All right. Process that up just so that that's mixed up. Now we have some melted chocolate chips here that I've melted in the microwave, but I'm also going to add a couple of tablespoons of coconut oil to it, and we're going to put that back in the microwave for just 30 seconds, heat that up so we can get it nice and mixed. That won't take very long at all. And then in the meantime, we're going to add some of our wet ingredients. We've got 2 eggs. And here's some vanilla. All right. We'll combine this up just so that it's nice and mixed before we add it in, and it also keeps the chocolate nice and melted. It makes it a lot easier when it processes. So we'll just put that in. Nice and gooey. All right, we're gonna process that, and the last thing we'll add are our walnuts, but we won't add them in until the very end. Nice, rich batter. Sides done real quick. Such a good aroma. And it's not even cooked. All right, we'll just add these in. Again, just a quick couple of pulses to just get them stirred in, but not processed. All right, that's it. Now we're gonna take that out. Oh, nice and thick. Spoon that into our pan. Such a great, easy recipe. These are great to make ahead of time, and it is a recipe that everybody can enjoy. Of course, if you have a walnut issue, don't put in the nuts. And if you need to make this without eggs, you can use an egg substitute. All right, just gonna spread this out. So nice and thick. Look how simple. So simple. Okay, we're ready to put this into the oven at 350. When we come back, we'll check out our finished product. Warm. All right. Get the milk ready. We're almost ready to take a look at all of our lovely desserts. Hi, and welcome back. I'm going to make everybody's favorite today, chocolate chip cookies, what a staple. But in this case, of course, they're gluten-free. And this particular recipe is also egg-free. So this really could be considered a vegan version of chocolate chip cookies as well. So you're avoiding gluten, you're avoiding dairy, you're avoiding soy, and you're avoiding eggs. We're going to start with almond flour. Again, very nutrient dense. It actually has more protein in it than wheat flour does. So we're going to add our almond flour in. This is, again, super simple recipe where you just throw everything into the food processor. Next, we have some really silky and so aromatic coconut flour. This is really, really a lovely addition to these cookies. You don't really taste the coconut too much, but it just adds a little extra hint of sweetness. We're also going to put in some brown sugar. Here's our sea salt, Mount Cecilia sea salt from Italy, which I really love to use. It makes such a difference. This ingredient is really interesting. This is teff flour. And a lot of people here in the United States might not be that familiar with it, but this is a staple of Ethiopian cuisine and Ethiopian diets. It's a very powdery, silky type of flour. We're not going to add a lot of it, but just a little hint of it. It's really great for baking goods because it has almost a cocoa type of element to it. It almost looks like cocoa, it has that smell to it, and it just adds an extra bit of richness to the cookies. So we're going to put in our teff. I'm just going to mix this up real quick. Just get that going. Get it all mixed up. Right. The next thing we're going to add is our oil. Again, I'm using coconut, but you can use any type of vegetable oil that you would prefer. Just add our oil in. I use coconut oil, but you can use any vegetable oil that you'd like. Just going to process that up. All right. And the last thing, just make sure, nice brown, rich texture here and color. We're just going to sprinkle in some nuts, which if you don't like those, just omit them. And we're going to add our chocolate chips. So all I'm going to do here is just pulse this a few times to get that mixed. We don't really want it processed. So just we're done making our batter. Now I have a prepared pan here. I've sprayed this with some oil. You can also use some parchment paper if you have it. I love to use an ice cream scoop when I'm making cookies because it makes them uniform and it's just so simple. Well, I'm just gonna have to clump those up a little bit. All right. All right, we're gonna scoop these out. And when we come back, we're gonna pop them into the oven for 20 minutes at 350 degrees. See you in a few minutes. Hi, and welcome back to GFC TV. Now we're going to make some amazing cinnamon coffee cake. You actually can make this cake in a square or round pan, but I've opted to do them as muffins. They actually make it so much easier when they're already individually wrapped to hand to somebody to eat. It eliminates a lot of the crumbliness, so I find this really easy and simple. So we're going to start with our flour. This is, again, some almond flour. I've made these with oat flour, and they come out the same, but of course the taste is going to be a little bit different. One of the great things about cooking with almond flour, baking with almond flour, is it's got this really buttery type of crumb to it. It's definitely a different type of flour, and it adds some really wonderful flavors to baked goods. It's one of the reasons I use it so often. But if you have a tree nut allergy, of course you can substitute. It will just have a different flavor. We're going to put in some brown sugar. Here's our sea salt from Italy, which I love, our Mount Cecilia. We added some baking soda to the flour. We're going to pulse that up and just get that mixed. These are really great, and they last a fairly long time for not having any preservatives in them. You can make these ahead of time, and they freeze beautifully. All right, we're going to add our eggs. 2 eggs. Our melted coconut oil. And again, if coconut oil is not your thing, you don't like that texture or that taste, you can use anything you'd like. I'm just going to pulse that up real quick. Get that nice and mixed. The last thing we're going to do is just blend in some walnuts. And if you have an issue with nuts, just omit them. But we're going to just mix these, not process it. If you do it too much, they disappear into the batter. Almost done. This is a muffin pan that I prepared with the individual cups, and I've just sprayed them with some cooking oil. It really helps them release really quickly. We're just going to spoon a little bit into each cup. And it doesn't even matter if it's even, because they'll even out while they're cooking. But so simple. It's even easier than spreading it out in a pan, I think. So that's one of the reasons I love to use the little cups. Just go through. Fill them about 2/3 of the way filled. And now what we're going to go do is just flatten each one out just a little bit. You can use your fingers for that. Because we have our wonderful streusel topping here. And this is a combination of oat flour, a little bit of cinnamon, almond flour, some almonds, and some walnuts mixed together with melted vegetable oil. Again, this is coconut. So what we're going to do is just spoon some of this on the top. And that is what gives it that amazing coffee cake type of flavor to it. And we're all set to put these in the oven. These bake for about 20 minutes at 350. The cinnamon coffee cake is now finished. So let's take it out and see what they look like as muffins. Ooh, yum. It fills up the entire kitchen with that phenomenal cinnamon streusel aroma. Oh, that smells so good. And again, these are so easy to give out to other people as little snacks or to take with you because they're individually wrapped, they're self-contained. And when you take these out, you've got minimal cleanup. So this is a really great way to make a gluten-free cinnamon coffee cake. Great for breakfast or dessert. And here is what we made today, all of our wonderful gluten-free desserts. We've got our gluten-free brownies with a touch of teff flour, which really lends itself for baking, particularly anything with chocolate, because it has that little touch of a cocoa type of hint to it. So these are amazing. Our chocolate chip cookies, which are unusual looking, but they're also quite delicious and have a really good punch of nutrients for you. And then of course, our gluten-free cinnamon coffee cake muffins, which are easy to make, and you can make them ahead of time, and they are great because they're easy to clean up and you can hand them out. And here you have 3 wonderful, fairly simple, easy, gluten-free desserts. You may think that you have had to give up these types of foods, but if you keep watching GFC TV, you'll learn all about these and so much more. Join us again next time for another great episode of GFC TV. I'm your host, Beth McLean. And who knew that going gluten-free would be so sweet? Thanks for watching. Hi, and welcome back to GFC TV. My distinguished guest today is Josh Schieffer, and he is the author of the Gluten-Free Buyer's Guide and the creator of the Gluten-Free Awards. Hi, Josh. Welcome, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
We really appreciate your time. So you found out that you have celiac disease, and one of your sons has celiac disease. Is that how we got started with the awards and the Buyer's Guide?
Yeah, in fact, my son was 3 years old and he stopped growing. And it wasn't until he was about 4 when we really realized that growth had stopped. And through a series of tests and specialists, we got to Jeff Gordon's Children's Hospital, and they just asked the right questions, and found out that he had celiac disease. And it wasn't until about a year and a half later that I was also diagnosed with celiac disease. And from there, we started going to some support groups, and we ran into a family that had a son with celiac disease as well. And their transition into the lifestyle, the gluten-free lifestyle, was much different than ours. Initially, when Jacob was diagnosed, we were referred to a dietitian in Charlotte by the name of Pat Fogarty. And Pat, her daughter actually had celiac disease. And instead of going to the clinic, she invited us to her house. And we were able to look in her pantry, look into her fridge, and see what cross-contamination looked like. Why did the family have 2 toasters, the whole gamut. And that experience is so different than so many people that get diagnosed with celiac disease. There's a huge cost associated with it, with more expensive foods. You essentially have to gut your pantry and refrigerator and replace it with higher priced gluten-free products. And so what we found was that families were really struggling with that financially, and there was some emotional stress and depression along with this new diagnosis. And we thought, man, how can we bring that experience we had with our dietitian to everybody newly diagnosed with celiac disease? And we thought, man, what if we could just create a one-page website, have a couple categories, have maybe a few hundred people vote for their favorite products. That way, when people are diagnosed, they have this resource to quickly connect with the brands that are good. And so often, the newly diagnosed, they'll go out and they'll start experimenting with different brands of products and spend $7 on a box of cookies that taste like cardboard. And that just adds to the depression and the financial burden. And we did that. We created a one-page website, and from there it grew. We are now in our 9th year of the Gluten-Free Awards, and then that has actually transitioned into a buyer's guide. So we found that not only did the consumers need to know what products were great, but actually category managers at grocery chains and distributors wanted to know what the good products were as well. So we created a buyer's guide to help them purchase the right products for their stores. And so we serve several markets. We serve the consumer and also the industry for buyers.
Wow, what a fantastic way to take something that was a little bit challenging for you and your family and turn it into something that helps millions of people. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a labor of love, and we love producing the guide each year. We have brands register their products each year, and what we do is we turn that into a voting ballot, and we have about 3,000 or more people vote for their favorite products out of those brands that have been registered, and then we produce those results in an annual buyer's guide that's usually distributed somewhere around Thanksgiving, Christmas time.
And this is the copy that we have, and the one that's behind you that people can see, which is the 2018 Gluten-Free Buyer's Guide. Fantastic. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Gluten-Free Awards. And welcome back. So we're still talking with our good friend Josh Schieffer. We're talking about the 2018 Gluten-Free Buyer's Guide. So Josh, tell us a little bit more about how companies can register their products. How does it work?
Simple. We have a website called the Gluten-Free Awards, and it's a simple registration process. They have opportunity to put their products in 60 different categories that we have, and the categories range from gluten-free beer, bagels, we have websites. A fun one is summer camps. We have munchies, cookies, you name it. Typically, if there's a gluten-free counterpart or replacement, we have a category for it. So they simply put in their brand's names in those particular categories. We take those registrations all throughout the summer, and then we put them together in a ballot, and then the voting then goes live there at the end of summer, and then we take the awards and we publish them late November and December. That's when the brands realize, where they placed.
And so that's, for individual products. How do you go about determining, I noticed in here you have one category that is resorts, and I saw that Disney is the #1 resort. How do you come to a decision like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So we also, we poll our audience, and we find the top 20 to 30 bloggers. We reach out to those bloggers, and we actually ask them to submit products, but also submit vacation destinations, websites, certain categories that aren't typically represented by a particular brand. And then from there, their nominations get put in that ballot as well. So that's how things like Italy, Asheville, North Carolina, those are embedded into the awards program as well.
That's fantastic. And if somebody needed to reach out to you and say, hey, we want this to be part of the category, they can just go on your website?
Yeah, my email is josh@glutenfreebuyersguide.com, and that happens quite honestly a lot. In fact, when we first started the awards program 9 years ago, we started with 10 categories, and each year, typically by request, we've now grown into 60 different categories.
Wow, and I'm sure that this is going to just continue to keep growing. I was able to get my copy on Amazon, and I got it in 2 days. I was so excited to find out about it and read through it, and it is an invaluable resource to anyone and everyone, particularly families, who are dependent on finding gluten-free resources for themselves, particularly when they travel, but also at home.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I love about the program. That, obviously we produce it, so we're biased, but we actually like the program because it helps our family as well. If you're in rural America, or even only have a few different grocery chains to buy from, you don't get exposed to all the different brands that are actually available. So what this guide does is it shows you on a national level what gluten-free products are out there. So if you see a particular winner, like a first, second, or third, and let's say pretzels, for instance, you go to the store, you look for these top 3 pretzels, they're not there. All you have to do is walk up to your grocery manager and say, hey, look at these top 3. Can you at least stock one of these? If that doesn't work, you can always go online.
Right.
Amazon's got doing the grocery thing now with the purchase of Whole Foods, and so it's going to make it so much easier for us to connect with better foods quicker.
And that is so important. I know it's so much easier for myself now. I started 18 years ago, and when you mentioned food being cardboard-like, that's pretty much what it was. And we're very lucky now that your guide exists, and there's so much more to choose from. Josh, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, and I know that this is going to help so many people know about your guide and help you as well if there are products that they would like to see entered in there. So absolutely invaluable resource for us in the gluten-free community. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate the talk today.
Great, thank you, Beth.
Thank you. And there you have it, the Gluten-Free Buyer's Guide and our friend Josh Schieffer.